This is Tim here again. This is Tim here again, back with another movie review. This time I just got done watching Solo, a Star Wars story, I believe it's called. The new Star Wars spin-off flick. Just to jump in, I just want to say I'm not like a super fan of Star Wars. I've done reviews for the other films in the franchise. Personally, I don't think there should have ever been another one after Jedi. I kind of figured that was, pretty much the end of the story, really. Just to give my opinions on the franchise thus far out there, I just want to go ahead and throw that out here quick. The first film I thought was an awesome film. Empire Strikes Back I thought was amazing and one of the best films ever made. Jedi I thought was great, the weakest of the original three, but still a great finish for me personally, a great finish for the original trilogy. After that, the prequels, Episode 1 I thought sucked. I still think it's the worst Star Wars film, Episode 1. I hate the childish nature of Episode 1. Episode 2 I thought was passable due to some cool special effects and some good lightsaber fight scenes. Revenge of the Sith I actually like. The problem I have with the prequel trilogy is I feel like it could have just been pretty much two films. I feel like you could have combined Episode 1 and 2 into like one movie. Revenge of the Sith I actually thought was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. Then we have Force Awakens, which some people don't like Force Awakens. I actually thought Force Awakens was a great blockbuster type flick. Yes, it is somewhat derivative of the other Star Wars films, but there was enough new in it with the story, and it left enough of an interest for me to check out, the new trilogy that they're doing. And I did enjoy the new characters, even though Rey was overpowered in the film. For the most part, the actress did a good job, and she was interesting. And I did like Kylo Ren. As a character, he was interesting. I know some people have problems with him because he's not the big tough badass, but I actually like that he's not like the big tough badass and he actually is a poser. I feel like that makes his character more interesting. He's wanting to be something he's not. All in all, I thought it was a great sequel for like the 7th film in the franchise, I believe it was. Yeah, pretty much. Last Jedi I do not like. Last Jedi I would give a low 2 stars out of 4. It's a passable movie, but it is a major letdown after Force Awakens. Rogue One, most people seem to like Rogue One, but there is a minority of people who seem not to like it. Personally, I liked Rogue One, and it's cool if you don't like Rogue One. It's whatever. Personally, I liked Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was great. It was really dull, like first half. Once it gets to the middle, though, it really starts to pick up. At least I thought so, and I really enjoyed Rogue One. I liked the cast of the film. Now to jump into Solo, Star Wars story. This film, I'll just go ahead and say it. I'd give it a low 2 stars. It's a passable film. This is actually a weaker film than Last Jedi as a whole, but Last Jedi pissed me off more than this, because Last Jedi is supposed to be one of the main episodes, not like a side story. So it was more of a bigger letdown than this one compared to Solo. All in all, the guy who plays Solo in the film, Han Solo, he does a good job. Every now and then it seems like he's imitating Harrison Ford a little bit too much. I don't really like that, but he does a good job. He isn't great. Nobody can replace Harrison Ford in any way, shape, or form, even if they're playing a young version, but he did a good job. Woody Harrelson was great. Chewbacca was great, one of my favorite characters. They did a great job introducing Chewbacca in the film into the story. Han gets thrown down this pit, and they're like, let this monster have him, and he comes out, and it's like Chewbacca. That was just a great way to introduce Chewbacca here. Pretty much Han is on this planet, and he's got Emilia Clarke there, who is the girl he loves. Emilia Clarke does a great job here. She's still hot. She does a great job here. Pretty much he wants to get off the planet, be with Emilia Clarke, who he's in love with. He owes some people money, pretty much. Typical Han Solo type setup. He ends up trying to sneak away. I hate how he gets his name Solo. He pretty much doesn't have a last name, and this person's like, oh, you're Solo. Oh, well, Han Solo. And that's retarded. But he ends up getting away off the planet, but he has to leave her because she gets captured. And that pretty much sets up the dilemma of the film. He ends up teaming up with Woody Harrelson's group and everything. This film also feels like it just goes way too fast for me for when it starts off. It feels like, yes, this film did go through a major reshoot. They changed directors to Ron Howard and everything, and I like Ron Howard. But yeah, you can kind of feel that. The movie is sped up really fast to start with, and then it starts kind of dragging towards the end. But yeah. He teams up these Woody Harrelson's group who are like smugglers. It's like Woody Harrelson, Thandie Newton. There's this other little alien dude who is okay, but he wasn't anything to write home about. I did find it surprising that Woody Harrelson's entire group just dies like really soon in the first act. That was kind of took me by surprise. I kind of wish they would have lived longer because I would have liked to have seen more of them and got to know their characters, especially Thandie Newton, who was like Woody Harrelson's girlfriend, but wasn't really, you know, she didn't get to do much. So they die, and that was surprising though. That took me by surprise. I did not see that coming. I'll give the film that. And so he ends up, of course, teaming up with Solo and Chewbacca. Woody Harrelson does, because he owes Paul Bettany, the Vision from the Avengers flicks, basically some fuel type stuff, power cells or whatever he has to acquire. And he ends up making a new deal with him, and lo and behold, you find out Emilia Clarke is actually there, and she's like one of his chambermaids or whatever. And you find out pretty much she's been screwing Paul Bettany, and she's been doing all this evil stuff that they never mention or describe in the film, basically to survive. And of course, she's really happy to see Han. She loves seeing him. But the question of the movie is, will she betray Han or not for Paul Bettany or whatever? That's pretty much what they bring up. And Woody Harrelson's like, don't trust anybody, you know, not even me. And that's pretty interesting. You also get, you've seen in the trailers the hologram game or whatever they had in the other Star Wars flicks that Chewbacca would play with Han. You get it here. Woody Harrelson plays it inside the Millennium Falcon. That was cool. The guy who plays Lando Calrissian does a great job, man. He does a freaking perfect, great Billy D. Williams. This guy was great. I don't know this actor's name, but he was great. So yeah, they end up going and playing. They need a ship, and they play Lando at cards. Han Solo does, and he cheats. He's got like one of these little mechanism things at his wrist that gives him like a winning card every time. It's pretty funny actually. And but they end up getting the ship, and he teams up with him pretty much. And he's got like this really annoying droid sidekick who's like a parody of SJWs. And it's actually funny sometimes, but they just overdo it, and they keep, like, you know, beating it into your head. At least it felt that way for me. And the character keeps going around going, free droids and shit like that. It's just kind of annoying, takes me out of the movie. But she ends up getting killed. I call it a woman because it's voiced by a woman. Might as well be a female robot. She ends up getting killed. And I'll admit I was cheering when this character died. They wanted you to feel sorry for it, but I was cheering. It did not work. There is a funny scene with the robot, though, where it's like, Han loves you, and Emilia Clarke's like, no he doesn't, and the robot's like, come on, it's just us, I can tell, Lando's in love with me. You know, it's like a joke because the robot has a crush on Lando and thinks he's in love with him, in love with her. That was cool. I thought that was funny. Other than that, this character sucked. But yeah, they got to get the power cell type stuff or whatever, and they end up going to this planet, and they got to pretend like they're slaves. Han and Chewie do. And Emilia Clarke takes him in there and acts like they're going to make a deal with him. And they end up, of course, you know, springing into action. And one thing I thought was cool was how Chewbacca's like, I got to free the slaves, and they're, you know, other Wookiees. So that was kind of neat. And like every now and then, like the chemistry, well, a lot of the times I would say the chemistry between Chewbacca and the guy that's playing Solo was really good and fun. I had more fun in the action scenes here than I did in Last Jedi. But anyway, so they're fighting, and Chewbacca saves the other Wookiees, and they end up making it out of there. I do like the twist at the end of this movie. They succeed in what they're doing. They get back to Paul Bettany, who has this really cool weapon. It's like brass knuckles with these two little saber things on ends of them that lights up like lightsabers. That was cool. And they get back to him, and he knows they're going to double cross him. And the reason he knows is because Woody Harrelson double crossed them. And Woody Harrelson's like, you know, don't ever trust anybody. That twist could have worked. But when you get to the end of the movie and Woody Harrelson's the only one not there, and you're like, who betrayed him? And you think the movie wants you to think it's Emilia Clarke. But if you're savvy and you've seen enough movies, you'll know right away it's a misdirect, and it's going to be Woody Harrelson. But that was a good idea. It could have worked because Woody Harrelson's like a father figure for Han in the film. It could have worked, but they just don't mesh it in well. I don't know if that was a victim of reshoots or what, but they flop on that opportunity the way it comes about. And Woody Harrelson pretty much has betrayed him. And he wants to take the stuff for himself because he can make money off of it on his own. And he pretty much portrays Paul Bettany too. So it's like a twist beyond a twist. So I thought that was funny. And then you find out that Han knew all this was coming. So it's like even another twist. That was pushing a little bit too far. Too many twists. Make your head spin a little bit after a while. But yeah, that was pushing it a little bit too far. And they pretty much have a shootout there. Han gets into a grudge match with Paul Bettany. And it's a pretty cool action scene. Not once Emilia Clarke like jerks out these freaking judo moves and kicks Paul Bettany's ass and kills him. And they like come out of nowhere. I'm like, well, if you had those moves, why weren't they in the rest of the movie? Well, they were kind of hinted at in an earlier scene, but it was like so fast that I barely remembered it, honestly. They could have done a better job hinting at that. But yeah, you get that Paul Bettany's dead, and then you find out that, of course, she really is betraying Han. And then once again, this, in quotes, could have worked. And you find out, I actually like this, that the guy Paul Bettany worked for is friggin' Darth Maul. That was great. And that was friggin' hilarious. And you find out that she pretty much is a survivor, and that everything she's doing is just to survive. Like, she has no affiliation or pretty much any honor with anybody. She just wants to live. She doesn't really give a shit. And so she takes off and just leaves Han there, having betrayed him again. Or having betrayed him, I mean, not again, but betrayed him. And then after that, and you can tell she looks sad when she does it, so you know they're leaving that open-ended, which you knew by the end of this movie that Woody Harrelson and everybody's character either had to die or leave, because you know Han can't hook up with Emilia Clarke's character because he has to be with Princess Leia in the future, and it wouldn't make any sense story-wise. So right off the bat, you know this relationship's not going to work out. But the way they do it is they leave it open-ended, like she flies off to go team up with Darth Maul. They leave it open-ended, like purposely, so they can do a sequel to this film and develop that relationship even more. And of course, Han has to shoot Woody Harrelson's character. Woody Harrelson's like giving a speech, and Han shoots him because he knows he can't like outdraw him, I guess, and so he just shoots him while he's talking, which is pretty funny. He takes him out, and Woody Harrelson's dying, and Han feels really bad about having to kill him because he was pretty much like a father to him in the film. That was cool, and I like how Woody Harrelson dies really somber, and it is sad. That worked. And pretty much after that, he goes back to Lando, who actually deserted him in the film, which was supposed to be kind of funny, but you could see it coming. He just flew off with the Millennium Falcon. And he comes to him and plays him in another card game to win the ship. And this time he knows about the trick with the, his device on his wrist. And this time he wins, Han wins, and he gets the ship, and him and Chewie like fly off. And this is supposed to be, how they end up together with just those two. The problem with this ending, though, is I see Han doing this and flying off, and he's like, yeah, there's another guy who needs somebody for a job. Let's go do it. So this is pretty much how they become smugglers. This whole movie has like kind of like a smuggler story for the most part, which really works because that, that's what Han is. That's what the character is. If you're going to do a prequel, you don't really need one, but if you're going to do one, that's pretty much the only way you can do it. That would work. I would have actually been happy if they just had to eliminate the love story, just eliminate it, and most of the other stuff, and just make this just a straight-up smuggler story. I would have been pretty fine with that, honestly. But you get to the end, he flies off like he's going to do another job, and another problem I have with this is I don't buy this ending. Because in the film, they make it perfectly clear that Han Solo is totally in love, like, seriously, head over heels for Emilia Clarke. Like, he's friggin' trying to track her down. He's only doing smuggling jobs at first so he can get the money to go get her. And it doesn't make sense to me, like after she leaves and betrays him at the end, that he would just be like, oh, okay, and just get the ship and fly off to go do another smuggling job. No, I don't buy that. From the way Han's character is presented in this film, now head over heels he is for Emilia Clarke, it would make more sense if at the end he's like, I'm going to go after her and try to convince her to be with me still. That makes sense for the version of Han that they're going with in this film. I don't buy anything else. But yeah, all in all, I didn't buy that ending. But yeah, as a whole, this is a passable film. It's a low 2-star passable film. I give it the same rating as Last Jedi. Last Jedi is a slightly stronger film as a whole than this flick, but this film is more harmless. This is like, what I'm saying is Last Jedi, even though it's a slightly stronger film than this because it tries more things and does, well, it tries a little bit harder than this film. This film plays it pretty safe. But at the same time, this film plays it so safe in a way, and is so fast for the most part, breezing over, and the fact that it's a side adventure, that it doesn't leave you as pissed off as Last Jedi did. You know what I'm saying? Like, Last Jedi left me more angry. Like, if I had to put it this way, even though this is just a slightly weaker film than Last Jedi, even though I'd give them both the same rating, because as a whole, they both deserve the same rating, but if you have to compare them and pick which one is the slightly more stronger film, it'd be Last Jedi. But as a whole, This film is much more harmless and much more easier to watch, and I would rather watch this film again than Last Jedi just because of that fact. So yeah, as far as Solo goes, it's a passable film. The performances are all good to great. Nobody's really bad, except for that freaking SJW robot. What the hell was up with that? I have no idea. But that was just weird. But yeah, as a whole, this film is... it's forgettable. That's its biggest crime. I will say this. I would like to see a sequel to this. There's enough good here in the performances and the actors to let me... get tongue-tied, to where I feel like with a better script and not all the crazy behind-the-scenes antics of this one, that you could have something with this. You really could. I would be open. Honestly, I'd rather see a sequel to this than another main Star Wars episode, because they're going to have to do a lot of fixing to repair the damage from Last Jedi. But this film, I could go with a sequel to this. There's nothing here that really pisses me off like Last Jedi. There's nothing here as strong as the good parts of Last Jedi, except for the Chewbacca meeting him type thing, and Woody Harrelson's speech at the end and everything when he dies. That's pretty much it. The Darth Maul cameo was cool. If they do a sequel, I want Darth Maul as the friggin' villain. Give me more Maul, baby. But yeah, as a whole, it's passable. It's not really worth seeing in theaters unless you're a hardcore Star Wars fan. If you're somebody like me who's a casual fan, I'll pretty much watch this film to do a review of it because it's a newer flick. Now I'd probably say skip it, honestly. But it's harmless though. Nothing in this film really pisses me off. It's just there. So I'll see you guys again with the next review.